Hello, welcome everybody again to another episode of the Drum Circle Show, where we highlight and amplify small Black-owned businesses so that you can hear from the stories that really matter and are relevant to you. So my next guest, I'm so excited to have because not only is she amazing, but she's actually an alumni of the Drum Circle group. So she's actually been in Drum Circle, which, as you guys know, is a part of my 8 cohort member program that helps to actually answer and address and take action on a lot of problems that we have as small business owners. So with no further ado, you know how I do, I'm going to allow her to introduce herself, let you know when her business was started, how long she's been in business, and give you an overview of her business. So with that being said, Christine, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you so much for this opportunity and super excited. I know we're going to get to Drum Circle later on, but definitely I'm honored to be here. I am Christine Ruiz, the owner, the founder, the CEO of Checklist Maids. We are an eco-friendly home cleaning and commercial cleaning service servicing New York and surrounding areas. So New York City and surrounding areas. That's Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan, and sort of a little bit of border of Nassau County. And so I'm really excited to just talk more about my business today.
Wonderful, wonderful. So that is not the norm. I mean, let's just, and I love interviewing the unlikely businesses in our community, right? So for you to actually own Checklist Maids, right? So most of us, we come from generations where our grandmothers were actually in the homes, right? They were the housekeepers, but I don't know anyone. You're actually the first Black woman that I've met who owns a maid service, right? So that part stood out to me the most, okay? And what I love too is it's not those stereotypical, what we call sexy businesses, right? That everyone kind of like gravitates to. And so that part stood out to me as well. So if you don't mind sharing, one, I want to get into, of course, your differentiator. But before we go there, can you give us like a little bit of background and why you chose this particular business, like, you know, on a personal level, what this means to you?
Yes, and thanks for asking. So it's some history behind it and then some current situation. So not only my business owner, I'm also a wife and a mother of 4. And we live in New York City where things are expensive, things are busy. So really the inspiration behind Checklist Maids was my late grandma Rosa. She was, like you said, she's my grandma, and she was a cleaner back in the day. She's from the South, Elizabeth City, North Carolina. So back then they called them domestics. I always say, if you ever saw The Help, that was my grandma, that was my great grandmother. So for me, she was truly the inspiration. My grandma was not just a wonderful person, but she cared about everything she did. So even when she was cleaning houses for all these people or even these companies and offices, she really always cared about what she did. But what really, what I didn't like is that my grandma, as hard as she worked, she was pretty much, lived in poverty or poor or barely making it for her whole life. So a lot of times when we come up, we're like, well, we came up now we're the owners, and we sometimes do things just business as usual. We don't change things up. And I wanted to do something different by not just being like, I'm the owner now and paying these cleaners barely any money. My whole structure is different. I work with other women, primarily other women cleaners, other moms, other minorities. And so instead of having them do all this hard work and, barely make a living, I actually pay above industry average. I treat it's more like a partnership, because my thing is, I know how much hard work it is cleaning. When I first started, I was the one doing the cleaning. So I know it's not just you walk in a stranger's house, you have to know what to clean and what order to clean. Walk into the stranger's house and know how to organize that and do it in a timely fashion is a skill. And not everyone looks at cleaning as a skill, but it truly is a skill. And then you don't just want anyone in your home. That is your personal space. So to me, your personality matters too. So with the women who that I have worked with me, I make sure that they're getting paid above average. So I, as the owner, I make less. And some people might say, well, I'm short of my family. But my thing is, if you don't have to clean so many houses in one day to make decent money. You're able to still go home and spend time with your kids and your family. That's going to put you in a whole nother energy and mood, right? In this position when you're in these people's homes. When you're giving your best, we're going to have people not just get a cleaning once or twice, but they become regulars. And my thing is, the more regulars we get, then I can get a little bit from each cleaner, right? But then those cleaners still are able to make a good living, and they're happy, and they are not just valued in words, but they feel it and they see it, and they can see it in their pocketbook too, that they are valued. So I'm not playing the short game. For me, I really wanted to play the long game. And when you value people, when you, in all your actions, your words, and everything you do, it shows in how they feel and how they are with that customer. So that's really, I didn't want to treat people how my grandma was treated. She was just a maid, just a domestic, just a cleaner. These people to me are change makers. They are going in your home and transforming. They're allowing and providing ease in our customers' lives. So that's super, super important to me. So that's really sort of the inspiration behind Checklist Maids.
I love that. And it addresses so many things in terms of, let's just start with the top layer. One, because we have historically been forcefully placed into positions of servitude, emotionally, we have a very different relationship with those services. There are typically, first reaction is, that's a position of subordination. That's a position of lower status, and that's not something that I want to be involved in or associated with, right? So even in the immigrant population who comes here, the status quo is typically, okay, the first generation, they'll play the positions of the servants, but they're going to empower their children to never, right, be servants. And so we have that, it has that negative connotation. That's one. And then secondly, it also has, for us, I would say, that guilt associated when we need those services, right? Mm-hmm. So I would say, one, because of that negative connotation, it kind of like makes us reject those industries. We don't even really think about those industries or being a part of those industries. And then two, we usually don't even want to access those services, right, because there's a guilt. So I've spoken about this before in my journey, right? So entrepreneurial. And so I've shared this story maybe just with a handful of people, but it's a very interesting story because my grandmother was also what we would call a domesticated person. You know what I mean? She worked in Beverly Hills homes. I remember even hearing stories about women who would at least brag about that. Like, oh, I worked in Beverly Hills, like I wasn't just a regular maid, right? Yeah. And so I remember, having that. My grandmother was always a nanny, always a cook, always a caretaker. And so for me, watching my grandmother also, work that hard, or just knowing that she worked that hard and how she was viewed, it was a very complex thing for me when I started to take on the amount of work required to be an entrepreneur, right? We're solo entrepreneurs, so we're doing everything. You're doing the marketing, you're doing the ideation, you're doing the customer service, you're doing everything. And then we live under this stigma, and I'm going to say specifically as Black women and women of color, of do it all. And you're supposed to do it all, right? And look good doing it. And so when it comes to needing help, we struggle with getting help, right? That's one. We just struggle with getting help, period. And then secondly, if we're going to keep it a buck, y'all, we're going to keep it real. A lot of women of color, we are shamed. We have this shame of like not cleaning your own house. Not like, oh, right, Lord, they're going to talk about me. I think I can hear my grandma's voice. So you going to let this woman clean your house? Will be cleaning your house? Because that was core to your identity culturally, is that we keep our house clean, right? We take care. That's part of what you do, and having your life together is clean and take care of your house. But if you guys know, once you become an entrepreneur, you're working, 1 or 2 jobs, that is nearly impossible. And we will really run ourselves ragged. So when you're talking about this journey of saying, okay, this is what my grandmother did. This is now the business that I'm going to start. This is actually the role You said, I did it. I went into these homes, right? What was that emotional journey like for you? Like, probably didn't think about it at the time, or maybe you did, but what was some of that unpacking that was required for you?
Well, I think it's two, maybe twofold, threefold. One of the things for me, it's not so much that I'm thinking of us as we are the servants, but we are in service of. And as a lady of African Alpha, service to all mankind. So to me, I never feel small when I'm doing something for others, because I look at it as we are literally taking that load off of you. We are helping you. We are being in service of. So it's not a lowly thing. I'm college educated. You know what I mean? I've worked for Fortune 500 companies. I've been in positions where I've had, a team, and I've been in a leadership position in jobs. So when I was going in myself and cleaning these homes, I was just like, I want this to be the best experience this person has had, because I always look at it as word of mouth, right? If you have this great experience, I don't know who you know, but that's a potential for this business to grow and to spread the word. So, that's why I say it's sometimes, and we'll probably get into this later, but it's not about pricing where it's the race to be the cheapest. I know that we bring value. We're eco-friendly. That's also inspired by my grandmother, who for all those decades was constantly working in bleach and ammonia, all these harsh chemicals. And when she passed of cancer that started in her lungs. So to me, the reason why we are eco-friendly is because of Rosa, right? Because she did all this hard work and wasn't valued, and it cost her health. And my grandmother died pretty young. I'll never forget that she died pretty young. So to me, that's why we're not the cheapest, because it's not just about being the cheapest. If you want the cheap, people will sometimes call and I say, we might not be the right fit for you. There are other local companies I'm happy to recommend you to, but I know we bring value. We bring the eco-friendly products. We're giving not just a quick service that we don't care. We're taking care of family homes. That's why I said the families that we serve. So to me, it wasn't that hard of a leap to be the person that was actually scrubbing toilets and mopping people's floors at the time, because to me, I was like, I know I'm going to be paid well for what I'm doing, but I'm taking this load, like whether it was cleaning someone for who they're moving into their house and we're preparing their new to them home for them. I wanted them to come in there and be like, this smells fresh, my house is good, and to provide that experience. So it's not just the home cleaning, it is an experience. And then when it comes to the entrepreneurial side, for people who are saying or feeling that guilt of, is it a bad thing if I have someone clean for me? It is not. And I think that stems from not just the thing of that's our identity of we're known for being a clean house. So when you think about it, to get deep, and then we'll get out of that, but when we were enslaved and stolen into this country, our worth was how much work we could do. If we weren't producing enough, we could get sold, right? We could be separated. So if we weren't picking enough cotton or nursing enough babies as a wet nurse or whatever it was we were supposed to do, it was drilled into us that our worth is how much we can produce. And there's lingering effects of that. So we always feel like we have to do it all and produce it all, because that was literally beat and trained into us. And there's still remnants, right, of that. So I think once we unlearn and realize there's no pride in exhausting yourself, and you cannot be everything to everybody for everyone and not burn out, your mental health and your mental health and your body, you get one. Once you run that down, are you really living? You might have all this money because you're, successful, but if you don't have your quality of your mind and your health, you aren't getting to enjoy life. So I think when we can unlearn that and see things for what we are and understand that, that's why it's such a big understanding now. I think that rest is okay. You got the Nat Ministry on Instagram, all these other things. When we realize that that is okay, and there's no guilt, and there's no wrong, and there's no lack in rest. And then realizing too, when people will call a book of cleaning, they sometimes will feel guilty about the condition of their house. And I say, if your house was not clean, you wouldn't need us. So don't have that guilt. We are happy your house is dirty, because then you wanted to call us, and that employs someone else. So you're doing good work by not cleaning your house. Don't clean it. Let us do it. You know what I mean? So I think when people can understand that, see the bigger picture, understand that their need to feel like they have to do it all is not because of that's the way things are. That's because that's what they wanted us to think. Produce, 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 produce while they rested, right? And when you can understand that and unlearn it, I think it's a lot easier to not only get the help, but accept it. Because sometimes it's a lot to get it. And sometimes people are offering that help and we don't even want to accept it. But when we can unlearn and get to that place of getting and accepting, I think it changes the game and people realize like, there's no guilt in that. This is providing someone else a job and a way of living, and everybody can't clean. This is skilled work.
Right. Yes.
So allow our skilled workers to work. This is skilled work.
I definitely want to double tap on something that you highlighted, which was I don't feel subservient because I'm in the position of servitude. Right. And that part, I think, is so critical to, I know, was for my transformation on getting help, because initially I never opted in for help, whether it was moving or, all the different things. And I was always the friend that went over, and helped clean and helped organize and stuff like that. And then I remember I was in the process of moving for like the 30th time, right? And I'm like, okay, I am burnt out on this moving. I'm over it, right? I'm a professional mover at this point, but I'm over it. And I had the moving company come out, pack everything up for me, pack everything. And so I also, for the first time, decided I'm going to have the professional cleaners come and clean. First time ever. And at the time, it was my house that we were renting, and then it was the back house that my mother we were renting out for her too. So it was two homes. We're trying to do this in 30 days. So we had them come out and clean. And I think they cleaned like 4 days before I actually move out and everything. But when I tell you, I was just like, I remember sitting there thinking like, I don't care what is going on. If I ever have to move again, I remember thinking I will never do this again. And then just having that experience of seeing, I was like, oh my God, this is such a relief. I just remember feeling the relief of it all and how that put me in such a better place emotionally. And then the first time that I ever utilized or paid cleaning services was for my friend and Sora, actively in medical school, pursuing medical school, working in the ER and teaching with 2 children. And I gifted that to her. And I was like, I told her husband, we coordinated it, right? Don't let her know. So he took her out for dinner and everything else. And so that same staff that done that massive cleaning for me, they came in and cleaned for her. And I remember being on the phone, and when she walked in that house, not to put her business out there, but stuff was everywhere. She got 2 little babies, you know what I mean? Everything. Mm-hmm. Like I said, you're in medical school, you're working in ER, you are burning the candle at every single end and in the middle. And when she walked in, I just remember hearing wait, what? It was a confusion, what? Like she's looking around what? And I remember her saying I can see more, and oh my God. And just that relief that came over her, that, oh my God. I mean, if anyone listening, you guys have probably, if you've ever been in a situation where everything is just so overwhelming, the thought of cleaning will tire you out. The thought alone, when you just walk in, you're just you're drained. It will, just the sight of it and the thought of doing it will drain you. And just having that fresh start, that you could just see the layers of just that lifted. You could feel it. And I just remember how beautiful of a moment that was, and that recharging. And now she felt invigorated, inspired. And so from that's when I gifted it to myself. But it was I had to actually be of servitude in order to accept it for me. It wasn't me who initially was oh, I just want my house cleaned. It was okay, we got to move in 30 days. I got to get this done. So it was really my hand was forced, really more so. And then when I saw that, so I love that you've taken that along with the concerns to say we're eco-friendly, not simply because it's a trend, but because this really impacts the health and the well-being of the women who work for me and with me. And we take that so seriously that if that elevates my cost, which means I may not be able to capture the widest audience, their health is worth it to me. That value set is so tremendous. And I absolutely love and respect you for that. Yes, you wanted to say one more thing? Mm-hmm.
Well, I wanted to say it's not just for our health, it's also for the health of the homes we're cleaning. People don't realize. There was a study, I think it was EPA study. It was a 20-year-long study. And they actually realized or found out that it's kind of like you always think of the environment and outside and toxins, but there is a health of your home. If you're using bleach, if you're using harsh chemicals or carcinogens, right? And that's going in your walls and on your floors, what is the air quality inside your home that you're breathing? And I think people probably realized air quality and thought about that during the pandemic when people were shut in, some states more than others.
Right.
But so it's when you're cleaning and if you're getting your home regularly clean, those things are sitting in your home and on your surfaces and in your air. So it's for your health and ours. So it's not just about the cleaners, but as a cleaner, if you're cleaning all the time, your skin's your largest organ. So if you're getting something gets on your skin and stuff like that, that's going to get into your bloodstream eventually. So it's really for everyone's health. To say, like, when you think about it, you can clean your home and not have to use such harsh things, lemon, thyme, so many products that you can make yourself or that we utilize are still cleaning and disinfecting, but without breaking down, not to say breaking down, but without being harmful to your body. So whether you've got pregnant women we're cleaning for, families with young babies, elderly people, and everyone in between, we just want to make sure your home is like clean and fresh, but not like clean and smell like a chemical bomb.
Right. and so that actually goes into the next course of the conversation. And that is dealing with, one, the areas in your business that you would consider your weaknesses, the challenges that you faced in your business. And so on the heels of what you just brought up, which was COVID. Now, two things, I think about with COVID. One was we're shuttered in and there's no contact. So there were so many service providers who were no longer able to come into the homes, right? There were just, your regular services that I remember being in that kind of like when the janitor had to come in or the maintenance guy had to come in. And, like after not having people in your home for a while, like that was a tremendous issue. That was one. But then also I think about, secondly, an opportunity, which was the whole cleaning and disinfectant aspect, right? So can you talk a little bit about how COVID impacted your business and what you did to pivot and how you sustained and overcame that?
And thank you, because I did fail to say that we started in May of 2019. So this is we're in our fourth year of business now, but so we started May of 2019 and was really new when you think about COVID happening, because by March of 2020, New York City, at least, and that's the area I serve, was shut down, and they did not play about that shutdown. It was the most quiet the city had ever been. So to be so new and just getting off the ground, I think a few things helped us sustain the customers we had up until that point. We really developed relationships with. I had some customers that still paid for cleanings, but didn't want the cleaner to come. But they cared about us. They felt bad because they were like, people, you've been so kind. And from the aspect of me doing all the calls and customer service and follow up and everything else, and then the cleaners being the ones in the home, relationships were developed. And so we had quite a few customers that literally essentially just gave a donation. They still paid for their regular cleaning, but they said they didn't want them to come. I also had a few customers where I would actually send them some of the cleaning products that we use so that they could, maintain at least a little bit themselves. And while we lost pretty much a large amount of our customers, as far as the homeowners that we were cleaning for, people residential, we at that time gained a few more commercial clients that we still have to this day. So we were cleaning, and it's interesting because we clean for a doctor's office in right outside of Central Park, so in Manhattan. But during that time, it was really sort of pivoting and getting more commercial clients. is sort of what helped us sustain. And even, you know, I was really trying to be grassroots with it. So calling and making sure, you know, seeing with people who have the banks who have the ATM machines, are those being sanitized? Things that people were still having to utilize in certain touch points, just trying to get that business and securing that business is what helped us sustain. It was hard. And the funny thing, well, that's a whole other topic, but it was all these PPP and was the EIDL loans. We were denied, which is crazy because then I think I told you at one point, I found out a year later that there was fraud. So someone got a loan in my name, but didn't even have a real business. But it's crazy how a lot of the real companies had trouble getting those actual funds that it was for us. But really it was just the grassroots calling and seeing, are your ATMs clean? Do you need your office clean? Stuff like that. And getting that business. So we sort of pivoted from mainly residential to getting more commercial at the time. And then after things died down, I wouldn't say died down, but as things got a little bit safer and people felt more comfortable with people coming into their homes, we did pick up those residential and had more people saying, my house has been a mess because we've all been in the house. Can you come and clean? So it actually started to pick up for us, but it was concerning and it was hard, especially being such a new business and wondering, like, no one knew how long this was going to last, when we're going to make it out of it. Is my business going to survive? But taking it day by day. But I think we really thrived off the fact of getting new commercial business, and the customers we had served up until that point really did support us. And the fact that they cared blew my mind. You know what I mean? Because it affected everyone, but they cared. So that really is what sustained us.
Yes, thank you. And that offers me an opportunity to drop a gem. So, if you heard, she just spoke about how she had to pivot to a new audience segment. And so one of the things that I teach and I have instructed people to do in terms of pivoting is sometimes you have to retarget. You have to find a new audience. So one of the things that a lot of people understood who primarily serviced residential, or what we would call B2C, business to consumer, they found that they were able to now focus on B2B. So where you could not access a lot of residential areas anymore, a lot of businesses did have to remain open, right? There were what we call essential businesses. And so those essential businesses, they still needed service, and they needed a brand new service that most of them were not familiar with. And that was actually making sure that their businesses were properly disinfected, making sure that their businesses were safe. Those created opportunities for all kinds of new businesses from people who, went into their businesses and properly cleaned, properly disinfected, as with the Checklist Maids cleaning. Or you have people who created plexiglass dividers. You had people who created different safety measures for these businesses so that they could still run and operate and make sure that their customers felt safe. So sometimes when you find yourself in a position where your target audience is not available, you have to go and look into another segment. Now we have B2C, which is business to consumer, but then we also have B2B. So that's business to business. Then you'll look into B2G, that's business to government. Because what we all know is, regardless of what happens, some government institutions, they're usually still up and running, right? And they also typically provide contracts for you that exist outside of simply just a month-to-month service. A lot of times you can get a contract for a year, but a lot of times we don't think about business to entrepreneurial, because when we think business to business, we tend to think strictly brick and mortar, sort of a concept. But sometimes you can provide services to entrepreneurs who are looking for additional streams of income. You can even turn your consumer into an entrepreneur by providing them an affiliate package. So you're able to go to, say, an existing entrepreneur who may have a close business with you, or a business that like literally marries well or complements your business, and say, hey, let's create a bundle package. Let's create, let's leverage each other's audiences, and then we can create an affiliate payment. You can also tap into your existing evangelical customers who are loving your business, familiar with your business, and offer them an opportunity to make money and create like a rev share, which is an affiliate program. So now that way, they're able to actually tap into a source of income, which they didn't have, for probably doing what they've already been doing, which is singing the praises of your business. And clearly, we can see that she had people who loved her so much that they were actually even making payments when they weren't able to utilize those services. And so before we get into, exactly like you being able to explain to us how to access your business, how to contact you, I do want to highlight your extraordinary customer service. Because a lot of times as minority-owned centric businesses, we lean too much into, I'm Black owned, I'm woman owned, I'm Black and woman owned, support my business. But what you have to do is make sure that you're following up with extraordinary products, service, and customer care. And that's one of the areas I feel like Checklist Maids really has checked the list for. So can you tell us just a few things that you do that actually like magnify that customer service quality and experience that you give?
Definitely. Well, I think, like I said, a lot of people say customer service. If you go to my site, it says customer care, because I think it's really the care just is more of the heart. We see these as families welcoming us into their homes. And so we treat them that way. I try to personalize things. The funny thing is, even though I have on my website where you can book, and it's very professional, a lot of times people think we are a large company. And I'm like, no, I'm the person who answers the phone. We process the payments, everything in between. Really taking time to speak with each person, especially when they initially book, to kind of get to know them, feel for who they are, their personality. So even from the beginning, that touch of not just, okay, we've got your name and correct address. I try to make sure I'm understanding, have they had a cleaning before? What are they looking for? What do they need? Sometimes we'll end up talking about their families. Based on what they say, I can think of what cleaner or cleaners may pair well with them. So really from the start, finding out their needs and getting to know a little bit about who they are and what they need so that I can pair them with the best cleaner for their needs. And then it's the constant check-in and follow-up. After every cleaning, I'm calling and finding out how did it go. We do our own process of walking through and making sure after the cleaning that we've met, their needs. But then I still, as the owner, call and say, how did it go? Was there any room for improvement? There's times where I've had a cleaner go back and, fix something because we're human. And sometimes things aren't perfect, but I think people seeing that we're willing to own our mistakes and not excuse everything, I think is helpful. And then just those small personal touches, sending cards. I don't do the big bulk of holiday cards. I actually send individual cards. So the card will have that person's name on it. We've had customers who, they were pregnant and they've had babies. We've sent, I've sent, small gifts or brownies or just different things to our customers because we value them and we see them. And one thing I didn't touch on, but even as far as our customer, we sort of almost develop a customer base of adult children who are booking cleanings for their elderly parent. And we've had, we always make sure the parent is okay with us taking before and after pictures, but that's come into play where we've had it, customers that had to have the conversation and we've noticed there was a lot of spills or things that were dropped and clearly your parent isn't in the position that they can pick it up right away. And would you consider it home health aid? It may be a hard conversation to have, but they may need more support other than that's coming into that house every 2 weeks or every month or every week, depending on the frequency. But they can kind of see that there are people who are booking for their parent and they may live in the state or may live out of state. So they're not seeing the condition of their parent's home. And so we're sort of that liaison or, extra backup to say, hey, we checked in your mom or your dad. They seem a little bit, not like themselves. We've had it where we've come to a cleaning and the person didn't answer the door and we had to call the person who booked it, the child, and they ended up doing a wellness check. So we don't take it lightly. Your home is your most private, precious space. Each and every time we come, we're allowed into it. We don't take that lightly, and we try to always make sure that that is felt and relayed through how we show up and our communication consistently throughout. Sometimes even just calling and say, how's everything going? So we really try to give that personal care, but whether it's a handwritten note, a visit, or whatever the case may be, truly caring for, respecting, and seeing our customers, I think is what sort of differentiates us.
That's awesome. I love the hyper focus on the customer's needs, even down to seeing which service provider may pair better with them and their personality. So knowing your staff and then knowing, because that's going to be a very personal and intimate and vulnerable relationship that's being, that's taking place. the follow-up that you said intentionally, even as the boss of the company, that you are still there, you're still keeping your ears on the thoughts and minds of your customers to see what is the feedback, making sure that their experience is absolutely at par with what you want. And I also love the additional care of saying, this is not simply transactional. I'm not just coming into your home and clean, I'm coming into your home and I care about you. So, not to overstep, but if I know that you are like in the care of, a care provider because your children or whatever cannot care for you, let your children know some of the things that may be cause for concern. The parent could be experiencing dementia and no one knows that. And here's some signs and symptoms. Unfortunately, we do live in a society where some of the care providers for our elderly do not take those jobs seriously. There's a lot of elderly abuse. There's a lot of neglect that takes place. So for you to even be able to give them some sort of an indication that something may be wrong, and sometimes even peace of mind that things are going right, I think that is tremendous in terms of the relationship that you're building and have built with your customers. So I just wanted to commend you for that. So now, please, let us know how we can take advantage of your services, how we can connect with you, what other products or services, anything that you have going on.
Yeah, so our website, try to keep it very simple. It's checklistmaids.com. And again, we're serving the NYC area, or you say Queens, New York and surrounding areas. So Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan, and sort of that Queens bordering area of Nassau County. Eventually we hope to expand, but for now, that's our niche, our spot. We love to love on those communities. We're also on essentially all social media platforms as Checklist Maids. So whether it's on Instagram, we're at Checklist Maids, or Facebook, Checklist Maids as well. So we're pretty easy to find. I know we talked briefly about challenges, and the thing is, I still am the sole, I do the social media, the day-to-day operations, the customer service. So definitely hoping to get to a point soon enough where I can pay someone and put someone else in business, but pay someone to help me with those. So trying to balance all, social media all while running the business. But those are the places where you can find us. And we would love to clean for you.
Fantastic. So Christine does not know this. I did not share this with Christine because you know me and I kind of like to pull up on you with surprises. But as I mentioned, Christine is a member of the Drum Circle program that I have created, the program system that I created. And she was actually part of the beta cohort. So this was a very special group of people. And Christine was the first person to present, and Christine poured so much into every member and was just such an active and loving participant that I have something for you, Christine, that I think will help. So I'm assuming, as a service provider and you have your website, of course, we overviewed your website and everything like that, that's kind of like accessible to you, right? You're the person at the dashboard with that. Okay. So what I'm gifting to you, because you're a member of Drum Circle, is I will be building you an app for your business.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Okay.
I will be building you an app, and it is being gifted on behalf of my other company, firstgenerationapps.com. And with this app, your customers can now book. They will be able to they will have access to everything that you have on your website. But your service providers will also be able to log in. They'll be able to see orders. They'll be able to track everything. They'll get notifications and everything. So I will be building for you an app. Yes, for free.
I feel so official and legit. Thank you so much.
So you will now be able to have, we'll make sure the name clears because we didn't check for that yet, but Checklist Maids, the app. and be able to be mobile and able to provide that. And so that now your customers will be able to access you differently. You'll have direct access to your customers in a way, and you'll be able to build out that community. And I love that you'll be able to use the space for educational purposes, right? So a community where, think about all the things that you can teach that you talked about, like the alternatives to a lot of these chemicals. You'll be able to teach that. You'll be able to provide that information. You'll be able to provide maybe even some of the awareness clues that people didn't think about, like maybe something's wrong in the home. And these are some of the indicators that you might want to look for or look out for. I can just imagine how you're going to pour into that community that you will now have with your own app.
Thank you, truly, because I felt like you gave us the gift by letting us be in that beta cohort and just get the experience, because it really was, there's nothing like it. You know what I mean? I've done different things. So I've been in different programs, but it's really, really unique. And I think even the bonds that we made with each other. So this is a gift on top of that gift. So thank you, truly. That's
wonderful. Thank you. And I do want to
I got to be quiet. I can't tell anybody else, right? So I'll just tell me what everybody knows.
And so I do want to know now, try to exit with this. Is this your first interview or podcast interview about your business?
So this is my second. I did one within so we have like a local community of like Black in Queens, New York. So Black Queens, not like Crown, but our community. And we've done it was like literally like a 1 minute. So it was kind of like I guess this is the first interview because it was where we gave a quick spiel. It wasn't like a full interview. So yeah, actually this is my first full interview. So I was nervous. But I'm glad it feels like we had more of a conversation, which I can do. I can talk. So this is great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so that's the differentiator that I wanted to contribute to this space, is to make sure that we amplify the voices that are often largely ignored, the voices that are just not heard, but they have the real experiences to speak to the real businesses that are still trying to grow and get to that space. But we still need to know that we're okay and we face challenges, and you know what I mean? You're not alone in this, and you can actually overcome. So I thank you so very much for being on the Drum Circle Show, but of course, being a member, one of the beta founders of the Drum Circle program. And so with no further, thing left, I'll leave you with any last word of encouragement or anything it is that you want to say to the audience.
As far as being an entrepreneur and a business owner, everyone has to start somewhere. And oftentimes I don't even say I'm a small business, I say I'm a growing business, because words have power, the energy, how we feel when we say it. And there's nothing small about what we do. There's nothing small about Checklist Maids. So thank you so much for this opportunity to share what I'm doing.
You're absolutely welcome. So thank you. So I will see you guys on the next episode of the Drum Circle Show. Bye-bye.
Bye.